The team has now wrapped up their mission in the 70s, but not everyone made it out to the Zephyr before it made its next jump into the future. Oh, and also on top of that, the Chronicoms have definitely upped the ante. So just a quick spoiler warning here for Adapt or Die, the latest episode of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, it turns out that the Chronicom infiltration of S.H.I.E.L.D. went a lot deeper than we first believed, because the team runs across a body-swapping station stashed in the bottom levels of the lighthouse. So, that's crazy. But then, in addition to rewriting the time stream by teaming up with Hydra to accelerate its evil goals by a few decades, the Chronicoms are also replacing key players in S.H.I.E.L.D. with an upgraded system that actually copies over the personality of the person too. So that means they're going to be even harder to spot out there in the wild. But thankfully, we have May, whose emotion sensing powers show a void when they run across a Chronicom. So, at least they have some semblance of a radar to track these Chronicoms. But after being captured by S.H.I.E.L.D. forces last week, Coulson and May hang around long enough to rescue General Stoner from a foiled replacement plot. So, finally, he actually buys into their wild story about alien doppelgangers and, the future time travelers and stuff. So, he and May get a little bit more time together in this episode, which is nice. And May finally explains why she's been so cold to Coulson in this season so far, even with her lack of emotion. She says she's mourned him enough times already, and she's sure not doing it again for his LMD version. Which, honestly, it's hard to argue with that. It's a fair point. Like, he dies, he'll probably come back, but, still, that's the guy you loved. Like, you should at least feel a little bit of something. Just a little. But in this episode, we also have Coulson, who is tracking the Chronicoms to their hidden time ship, which has apparently been stashed underground, below the lighthouse. And that also explains why Mac's team couldn't find it in the first place. So, Coulson pops into the Chronicom virtual environment for a one-on-one chat with the mysterious Sybil, who's the predictor who's been helping the Chronicoms plot their strategic changes to the time stream. And, she's surprisingly open and honest with Coulson, but she definitely makes it clear that she views her race as a superior humanity, which is why they want Earth for themselves. So, basically their goal is just to survive, but they don't care if humans survive or not. They care about themselves, but not anybody else, because they think they're better than everybody else, basically. So, yeah, they're a little selfish, but in classic Coulson fashion, he makes an impassioned speech about the sacrifice and heart that makes humanity worth fighting for. And then, of course, he also drops one of the show's greatest lines along the way. Dying? It's kind of my superpower. If you think about it, it honestly is. Like, think about how many times he's died and then come back. So, dying really is his superpower. And even though he isn't exactly human himself these days, Coulson tells Sybil he's long ago lost his fear of death, so he clocks another one by using all the explosives they had on hand to blow up the Chronicom ship. So, hopefully that means that he's destroyed some of their time-traveling abilities and dealt a blow to their supply of fresh Chronicom hunters, which should hopefully derail the body-swapping plot. But it also means that Coulson is dead, again. But, as May says, he always finds a way back. So, I definitely can't wait to see how they get him out of this one. Maybe they'll rebuild him, maybe they'll find his body. Maybe when he got blown up, it didn't damage his body, because, he is a robot, basically. So, that would make sense. But in this episode, we also have a storyline going on with Daisy and Sousa. So, not surprisingly, Nathaniel Malik's little side plot to kidnap Daisy and Sousa to steal their inhuman powers, which he wrongly assumes Sousa has an anti-aging power, goes very, very wrong. He nearly kills Daisy, draining her of blood, spinal fluid, and pretty much everything else, only to take on just enough of her powers to shatter his own bones and bringing a building down on top of him. So, yeah, that was totally worth it. But even half dead, Daisy manages to smuggle out some broken glass that Sousa can use as a weapon to facilitate their escape. So, good thinking, Daisy. And Sousa really gets a chance to shine here. I mean, as only a 50s hero can, keeping Daisy awake with stories of the old days so she won't fall unconscious, and literally carrying her out when she couldn't stand, with her, like, bad leg and all. I mean, his bad leg and all, like, wow. Then, of course, there's a great bit of chemistry between these two. So I assume these two are going to be teamed up a lot throughout the rest of the season. We saw them teamed up in the last episode. They were teamed up in this episode. And, I mean, I see what you're doing here, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You're setting this up between their relationship here, and there's probably going to be some romantic aspect here. And I've seen a lot of people online talking about this and how they've been like, I was upset that Sousa didn't get to be with Peggy anymore because she ended up with Captain America, but now I just can't stop thinking about how great Daisy and Sousa would be together. But I'm the complete opposite. Like, no, I just don't want this to happen. I don't want Sousa and Daisy. I mean, first of all, just think of the age difference. He was probably in his 30s, maybe early 40s, in the 1950s. And then she was probably only in her 20s in, like, 2020. So, that's a huge age gap. Plus, I mean, I don't know. I just don't like it. But let me know in the comments below. What do you think about this relationship? Do you ship them? Do you want them to be together? I think it's kind of weird. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see if it actually does end up becoming a reality. But probably one of the best parts of this episode is that Simmons' mystery is explained, kinda. So we saw last week that Simmons was scratching at a glowing implant in her neck, which Enoch seemed to know a lot about. And, of course, Deke, he walks in on Enoch tinkering with it in Simmons' head, assumes he's turned traitor, and knocks Enoch out cold. So, turns out Deke wildly misread the situation, and I mean, I get it. It looked bad, but he kind of just messed everything up. But we find out what the implant is, because it was apparently developed by Fitz and Simmons to block Fitz's location from Simmons' mind. So she really doesn't know where he is, so she can't give up his location if she's ever captured by the Chronicoms. And she tells Deke that Fitz is hiding out in a location where they can monitor the Chronicoms, but it's too dangerous for her to know where it is. So the implant blocks that information, and the only problem is that it's been malfunctioning and making her forget the wrong things. So Enoch was just trying to repair it, and then Deke just comes along, knocks out Enoch. So, I mean, here's hoping we'll get a peek at that location soon, because, I mean, Fitz is sorely missed. I mean, we need some Fitz in this season. I mean, we're already halfway through the season. We've gotten 0 Fitz. We've gotten references and mentions of him, but we haven't actually seen him. I mean, he's one of the best characters on the show. We gotta see some Fitz here, and then we gotta see some Fitz-Simmons teaming up dynamic duo stuff going on here as well. Now, another great episode part here was Mac's Robo family reunion. So, as for Mac, he and Yo-Yo spend most of the runtime breaking into S.H.I.E.L.D. in an effort to rescue his parents, who were taken hostage by the Chronicom forces as collateral damage. And it's a sweet story as Mac gets a bit of time to bond and reconnect with his parents, and he's definitely giddy to introduce Yo-Yo to them, even though they don't have a clue that he's their adult son. But this being S.H.I.E.L.D., though, there's always a twist, and it's definitely a brutal one, because May senses nothing from Mac's father, and after being confronted, he's revealed to be a Chronicom in disguise, and his mother is too. So, during this ensuing fight, Mac's doppelganger father tells him his real parents have been dead for some time, which the exchange ends with the team losing Mac's doppelganger parents out of the plane mid-flight, and that ending part with Mac's robo mother saying like, you don't do this to me, Mac, you're my son, and all that stuff. Like, just the emotion there, how Mac had to throw his mother out of a plane even though it wasn't actually his mother. Like, that's just not good. I mean, before the Chronicoms, I was like, alright, Chronicoms, they're the bad guys. Alright, I'm not supposed to like them. I don't really care for them anyway. I mean, they're just robots. They're not that interesting of characters anyway. But now, I absolutely hate these things. The things they put Mac through in this episode, it just makes me hate these Chronicoms, and I can't wait to see them get revenge on the Chronicoms and hopefully destroy them all, because now they definitely deserve it. But then the even crazier thing here is that all of this happens right before the next time jump, and as soon as the ship lands, Mac takes off on a motorcycle to clear his head, understandably distraught to learn his parents now died while he was still a child. And then this, of course, raises an insane amount of questions about how it will affect the timeline with Mac's entire life, and now the main timeline seemingly derailed by this. So, yeah, but then Deke steps off the ship to go find Mac, but as soon as they're off, the ship jumps, leaving Mac and Deke stranded in 1982, as we learn from the promo for next week's episode. And this is definitely going to be crazy. I love the 80s, so it's definitely going to be cool to see this, like, kind of buddy cop adventure between Deke and Mac in this episode. In the 80s, I mean, in the promo we saw Mac with a beard and everything, and just some crazy outfits. I'm hoping we're getting some great music in this episode, because that's one of the things the 80s are known the most for, is its music. Of course, it's movies and stuff, so I hope we get lots of references and stuff, but I'm definitely looking forward to next episode and the future of this season. But anyways, guys, what did you think about this episode? What was your favorite part? And please drop a like if you enjoyed the video, and hit the subscribe button so I can keep you up to date on everything that goes on in the Marvel life.